All right, going on Insta.
Okay. Is it always crooked like that? Hang on, guys. We got one more stream to bring up before I do this.
Do not disturb.
Thanks for that. Oh, and then mine goes off at the same time. Okay.
Hi, Instagram. Hang on.
Almost ready, YouTube. Almost ready, Facebook. 1 second. Okay. Hey, Green Machine friends and fans of fun. I'm going to take off my mask so that the deaf community can read my lips because I can't sign fast enough. Sorry. But we had a week. Do we have pop culture news? Cam's not here, so pop culture news.
Blizzard has
hard. Oh, yeah, Blizzard is apparently. And the worst part was like their leadership came out and said like, "Oh, this shame." They were like, "Shame on state of California, like you're exaggerating it." And everybody was like, "You are."
Yeah.
Like I don't want to say what everyone else said, but
you're the rapist at the college party, man.
Yeah, dude, that was horrible.
Right?
How terrible. Activision, man. You destroyed Blizzard.
I mean, you guys all have cell phones, right?
You guys, don't you guys have HR? Oh, that's making light of a terrible situation. What else? Other pop culture news? Oh, the Ghostbusters Afterlife trailer is amazing, and I don't want to talk spoilers, but we are dealing with a serious crisis in that movie. Far worse than we thought originally with the trailers. I'm super excited. Oh, God, that's good. Anything else, Nate?
The new Dragon Ball Super movie is called Dragon Ball Super Heroes.
Oh, there's a Dragon Ball Super Heroes movie.
But the new Super movie that's coming out next year, that's its title, Dragon Ball Super Heroes.
So Super Saiyan Man's at play here.
Oh, wait, is this the one where they no longer look like they've even powered up anymore? They're just...
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't think anyone knows.
What we saw
Dragon Ball Super Heroes.
Yeah, and it looks like we might finally get to see Goten and Trunks age up because let's face it, those little guys from the end of Z and Super are just like 13 and 8.
Right.
Yeah. So and they showed some artwork for Piccolo who looks the same.
Okay.
And then they also showed a new character that people are speculating is Pam grown up. So there's no way you can see like an aged up Pam and still have Goten and Trunks the same age.
Okay. So we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. And then I can't think. Do you have anything else? You look like you have something else.
I feel like I do, but I don't.
Okay, well then we'll just jump to comic reviews. It is one of the best weekend comics, like literally one of the best weekend comics, maybe ever. I honestly, there's so many good books out this week. Hang on, we're telling more followers. Okay. I don't know what's going on with Instagram, but I hope you guys are good. YouTube, our viewership fell off. Is our YouTube working? Maybe we lost people.
I can't check.
Hey, anyways, yeah. Let me double check. Can I go to the Green Machine? Guys, give me a second. I'm doing this in the middle of the video. Let me make sure that we're still working. Yeah, it looks like we're fine. I don't know what happened, but we're cool. Okay. So like I said, a really, really good week in comics, extremely good week in comics, some of the best I've read in a long time. Now, let's just jump right into it. Icon and Rocket, Season 1. This is Reginald Hudlin, Doug Braithwaite, Andrew Curry, and Brett Anderson. My God, the art in this is outstanding. The art snob in me was so happy with how this turned out. If you don't know Icon and Rocket, Icon is kind of sort of a Superman-esque character that came to the Milestone universe in a rocket ship, and that's his backstory is eerily similar, but he's very much an alien, and this is how he meets up with his sidekick Rocket, and it's great. It's great. Yes, it's very similar to the original story and how that played out, but it's fun. It's fun, and the art is outstanding. And honestly, it was a really, really great read. Like, I reached the end of it and was like, oh, I need issue 2, like, right now. Anyways, that will be on our shelf. Don't skip it. It's outstanding. Tamaki, Mora, and Belair, and we're talking about Bruce Wayne behind bars in Batman Detective Comics. Now, there is so much good to unpack in this. We saw last time that there was Vile, who is essentially a hive mind villain who infects people, and he actually got control of the Huntress. We're going to see that play out in a different issue that I don't want to touch quite on just yet. But Bruce Wayne needs to go atone and go behind bars and get his legal issues handled because Batman and Bruce Wayne can't both be hunted at the same time, he's decided. I'm not sure why that is. But that's pretty good to see. On top of that, he's kind of in a drunk tank, and the guy who's drunk next to him knows he's Batman. Like, literally was drunk and witnessed him take off his cowl at one point where he had something in his eye. And yeah, that's an implication we've really not seen ever in DC that I can remember.
In 80 years, Batman has never messed up like that.
Yeah, so it was interesting to see. I think that alone is, you don't skip it. That was pretty cool to see. The rest of the comic is amazing. I'm having a great time with it. But again, I'm really a giant Batman fanboy. Next is Strange Adventures, issue number 11. This is Tom King, Mitch Gerards, and Evan Shaner. Oh, God, this hurts. We saw in the last issue that ultimately Adam Strange pretty much did commit a boatload of war crimes. His daughter, who they thought was killed, is actually alive and being held hostage by the pickets. And the only way they'll give her back and they'll leave Ran alone, which is essentially what they did, was if Adam Strange gave them Earth.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so what a messed up story. And that's kind of painful. I was hoping this was going to be like a redemption arc for Adam Strange. Like, everybody was going to be like, Adam Strange is back, and like the Roddy stuff, and we were going to get like old-timey sci-fi. No, we've got a dark and twisted story, but go figure, it's Tom King. He likes dark and twisted stories and mind screws. That's his jam. Is it good? Yeah, it's really good. Again, Mitch Gerard's art is amazing, and I really do love Tom King's writing. It's just, it's dark and twisted and went ways I did not expect.
It comes from Tom King. Like, there might be some background to that from his own personal experience.
I don't think so. Let's never go there. Next is Easton, Osio, and Renzi. And this is in the shadow of the original Mr. Miracle. Is it? It's Mr. Miracle. It says that on the cover, but I gotta tell you, this new. Well, I don't know if he's new. Cam didn't know him. You didn't know him. This version of Mr. Miracle, Shiloh with his mother box. I'm not fully sure that he's a new character, but I love him. And the art, man, I tell you, the art was pretty good the first couple issues. But the art in this is just absurdly cool. Do you see that page? Yeah. It's wow. It's kind of, it left me breathless at times. I like the character a lot. I love the art. But more importantly, he's fighting a character named, well, it's Big Barda and Free's kid, Scott Free's kid. The character's name is Never Free. I hate that name. Anyways, but she's kind of a wild character, and he's sort of coming to terms with how to fight her. And there's just the way this Mr. Miracle handles things is really fun and very much in the theme of Mr. Miracle. It's perfect. I'm loving every second of it. And I don't think you'll be bored. If you've been waiting to jump in on this, this is certainly the issue to do it. The other art was pretty good for the other issues. That one was absurdly cool. Next is, well, this is Vita Ayala, Chris Cross, and Nicholas Draper Ivy. This is Static Season 1 Milestone Returns. Static Season 1. We saw in the last issue. Granted, it's the same Static story, very similar Static story that happened in the 90s, similar origin. The only thing is it felt a bit rushed because they didn't just slow burn into the villain. They just dropped him like in the, I think not even the first issue, like in the preview issue. So we immediately got Static's rival, and it's good to see that play out. Again, it's very similar. If you read the original Milestone run, you probably know how some of this goes. But the art, God, the art is so good. You can tell that they just put their best staff on Static, and it really does show. No offense, the rest of Milestone is amazing too. that's great. We're going to see some other twists and turns in this, but the last issue actually centered around his family finding out that he was Static, and that took place in a fight in their front yard with his rival. And I liked how the fight itself felt really good. Again, this is still amazing. Like, if you've been reading this, I guarantee you're not bored and you're probably having a damn fine time. So that will be on our shelf. Oh, God, this is going to be my DC pick of the week for sure. Williamson, Pelletier, Marino, Zermanko, Dernick, Rapmund, Fernandez, Ferraro Jr. Man, I've murdered some names, I know. This is Infinite Frontier, issue number 3. And it says, who's the new Black Lantern? We already know who the new Black Lantern is. It's Roy Harper. And wow, quite a few implications that means. Is Roy dead? We're not quite sure. Black Hand, the original wielder for the Black Lantern ring, it was always hinted that he was maybe dead all along, and we were never quite sure. He certainly had a dark childhood, but he was definitely dead inside. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, but was he actually dead? And they never fully clarified one way or another.
Yeah. Maybe emotionally dead, combine that with his obsession with death, killing people home.
Yeah, but most Black Lantern wielders tend to be dead. Like that's the premise to wearing the ring.
You got the master, and as long as you died once, it pops onto you, right?
Yeah, and Roy Harper. Well, Roy Harper has been dead for a minute, so we aren't entirely sure if he's resurrected or not, and it's really cool to see. Meanwhile, the Omega world is in play, and we found out that the Omega world, while it definitely represents death, it's actually being put into play as the new apocalypse. And more importantly, Psycho Pirate is some sinister version of Psycho Pirate who is also potentially a Black Lantern, and there's so much to unpack. So that's pretty much where this one begins. On top of that, Fire is missing, and Alan Scott and her brother have gone searching for her, and that's been really, really touching to read. Plus, you get Alan Scott like reconnecting with his kids, which is really something I wanted in comics. But I'm kind of a giant Lantern fanboy and a huge Alan Scott fanboy. That's just in my nature. So that's been cool to see. Plus, we are also seeing Thomas Wayne as the Flashpoint Batman hanging out with President Superman and sorting through some of the multiverse mysteries. That's been ridiculously strange to see. And I really, really do not want a Thomas Wayne redemption story, not after the way that Tom King run played out. He's pretty dirty, in my opinion. Anyone that can do that to their son's messed up. But okay, it is what it is. So we're getting that story as well. I loved every second of Infinite Frontier, though. I'm not gonna lie or sugarcoat it. It was amazing. And as a DC fan, I think you will have an amazing time with it. And that's why this is my pick of the week. Now, the next 2 books were very, very, very close seconds, but this is definitely my pick of the week for DC. You will love it. Next is Sheridan, Lieber, and Stewart, Teen Titans Academy. Now, we finally get the origin of 3 characters that are calling themselves the Bat Pack that are hanging out in Titans Academy. We don't know why, but they really bonded with Nightwing, and they called themselves the Bat Pack, and one of them was very pale, and there wasn't much of an explanation. We get their origin story in this, and it's amazing. On top of that, Red X does unmask, sort of. I'm not going to spoil that for you. You're just going to have to buy the issue to find out. Is it great? Yeah, I had a great time with it. It was honestly almost my pick of the week. The art is amazing still. The story is amazing. But also, the Teen Titans have finally made it through their first semester. Hooray. Or the new Academy members have made it through their first semester. I had the best time, and I think if you're a DC fan, you will love it. Next is, Williamson, Corona, and Guerrero. This is Robin, but the last issue, we actually saw Ra's al Ghul throw Robin off a cliff. And it's not quite, we're not certain that the League of Lazarus isn't working with him. But I'm going to tell you that, Ra's al Ghul has grown a lot since he got his butt kicked in with Batman and the Outsiders. And we're going to see him change and kind of grow and bond with his grandson in the strangest of ways. We've never seen this before. I I don't think ever, and I'm intrigued and want to know so much more. So this Robin is going in directions that we haven't seen. The art is outstanding, absurdly cool. It's so much fun. The story is great. I am hooked. I want to know what they're doing with their Mortal Kombat Island, is what it seems like. It's just absurdly cool. Next is Conan, Conrad Thompson. Man, Wonder Woman is so surreal right now. I feel like this would be like if the Dada movement put together a comic, it would play out like this. Like this is Marcel Duchamp's it feels like his brainchild almost. Each issue is really, really surreal and weird, and it goes from sort of different mythos. They went from Norse to the Olympus, and now they're going back to Norse and they're doing the Elf Realm. I can't remember what the Elf Realm's called, but they're hanging out in there. And we're getting to see how these different realms affect Wonder Woman, and more importantly, like why and how she's countering each one of these things. And Deadman keeps popping up just randomly in weird ways, and that's always kind of fun. So I'm having a really, really good time with it. It's strange. It's a wild ride, and it's not something that we're usually used to with Wonder Woman. Granted, she did have some surreal moments in Justice League Dark. I'll give you that. But these are wild and wicked. It's a fun ride, though, and you'll love it if you're a DC fan. Trust me. The beginning story of the daring exploits of the 21st century Superman. Oh, God, this is just so cool. Taylor Timms, LTAP, Superman, Son of Kal-El. This is another book where I was right there debating it my pick of the week. This centers around Jonathan Kent and what kind of Superman he's going to be, and will he make the right decision? Will he make the wrong decision? Will he make how and where the moral quagmire sort of show? And part of this, it centers around somebody starting fires. And the reason this person is starting fires is because, well, their power sort of caused it. And, do you give this person over to the military in that instance? Would you?
Professor X moment.
Yeah, it's a difficult, you have to come to a difficult decision. More importantly, you do get to see him visit Damian on the Mortal Kombat Island, with his new suit. And it's a very Jonathan Damian moment, and it feels right. I loved everything about this issue. You will absolutely love it too, especially if you're a Super Sons fan. Next is Bendis Malieve Stewart. Who is Damon Rose? Okay, look, there's a lot to unpack here. Currently, the current head of Checkmate, the guy who's pulling the streams on Checkmate, is Oliver Queen, which is awesome. I do like that. But what he's dealing with right now is Leviathan, and I can't stand Leviathan at all. Bendis, stop. Go back to the heroes you've created, because the heroes you make are amazing, and your villains suck. I don't know. I don't like Leviathan. I don't care for the character. I've never been invested in it, and I don't care for the twists and turns. That said, did I have a good time? I did. I actually did. Because the Question and Oliver Queen and their dialogue and their exchanges, that's always fun for me. I had a good time with that. It was just the rest of it. I don't care for that villain. I did like the ending, and the ending, the way it played out was very. I don't want to spoil it, but it was very DC proper. That's all I'm going to say. So, did I have a good time with this book? Yes, I did. As someone who doesn't like the Leviathan stuff at all. So I think you might have a good time with it. Oh, God, this is awesome. Tamaki Lapham Moville. Now, this is Huntress, and this is her annual, but it's the Secret Files. Batman Secret Files Huntress. This centers around the Huntress after she got infected by Vile, and he's a hive mind that controls a bunch of people and uses them to his own means. And he infects them with this sort of parasite that's this green sickly thing. Huntress was infected. She no longer is, but she does have ties to the hive mind. So she's got eyes where he has eyes. And it's pretty wild to see how that plays out, and I love it. That's something, granted, it's kind of a hive mind trope. We've seen it before in stuff like Borg and with Star Trek And I'm trying to think of other ones, but we've seen it before, and it's cool. It's a really, really fun way to take it. I like seeing Huntress like this. Plus, when you best the Huntress, you might win the fight, but she's gonna bring the whole damn war to you, and I love that about her. So yeah, is it awesome? Yes, Tamaki's writing is amazing. The art is really good. Had a great time with it. Loved it. Next is Superman Action Comics. This is Johnson, Sampere, and Lucas. Superman Under Siege. Now, we've seen that there are other Kryptonians that came from Warworld, and some of them are struggling to survive. Why? Because they've been tortured so much in Warworld, and they were under that red sun, so they basically had just been brutally tortured for most of their lives. So only one of them is awake right now. On top of that, there's some weird artifact from Warworld that's going crazy, and the Atlanteans are claiming control of it, but man wants it, and it's some crazy power source. So there's a fight brewing. The whole world is kind of at each other's throats, and gosh, it's not good reading. It's amazing. This story is really fun. I wanted this last year, to be honest with you. The art is outstanding. The story has many twists and turns, and it's really written in a very Superman way. I love how it's playing out. I'm having a great time with it. So outstanding. Next is, this is Black Caravan. This is an indie. This is Rich Woodall, Mark Wesler, and Welser, and this is Gods of Brutality. Now, I look at this cover and I think Dio, or Jack Black's video game back in the day, which he had a video game if you don't know. It's very, very metal. And this centers around, a metal singer that actually went to hell and fought his way out of hell, and how that played out. And he wound up fighting his way out of hell with a couple of gods at his side, and it's oddly great. I had the best time with it. It's twisted, a bit messed up, a bit dark at times, but I think if you like horror, you will love this. Or if you like metal, you will love this. Like my battle buddy from Iraq would have absolutely fallen in love with this comic, and I think you will too. It's a really, really good read. The art's amazing. It's not my indie pick of the week, but it's pretty close. So don't skip it. Next is, honestly, these are some weird books, and I'm not going to show the second cover because the second cover is a little bit pervy. These are Murder Hobo, Murder. I think I almost said Murder Hyphy. Murder Hobo, Chaotic Neutral. This is centering around the term Murder Hobo, which is it's in the Dungeons and Dragons universe. And Murder Hobo is basically people that kill a lot of NPCs for really no good reason. But these comics they're strange. Each one of them's pretty, they're separate stories, and they're all kind of a bit perverse. I would like more violence in my Murder Hoboing, please. But I don't know. It's just weird. I think if you need a really, really adult fantasy kick, we've got 2 of these issues on sale the same week. Come pick them up. It's just strange. The art is good. The story is, I keep in mind I'm pretty vanilla as a person, and it made me blush a few times, is all I'm going to say. Next is Morales, Kodajar, and Goulart, and this is the Lunar Ladies. Scout Comics #1. And Yogi, what do you think the Lunar Ladies will be about?
Ladies in space.
You're right. It's women living in a hollow moon, a whole society of women and high tech. And I don't know. It's a weird storyline and not a particularly good storyline. I feel like I was reading fan fiction. Yeah, it's very, I don't know, it has like a 1950s-esque feel to it. It feels like an old ancient sci-fi movie. And maybe that's what they were going for, but it wasn't nothing hooked me. Is the art good? Yeah, the art was pretty good. It's definitely kind of old-timey, and that's what they sell it as. Was the story good? It was okay. I think if you need a little sci-fi in your life, this might do it for you. I'd go look elsewhere. I don't know. Maybe give it an issue and see if it's good after an issue. It wasn't my jam. Next is Phillips, Rosmo, and Lyston, and Placencia, and we're talking about Harley Quinn. Is this the end of Harley Quinn and Kevin? Is it? I don't know. So Harley has been trying to help out a lot of the former Joker gang members and help them like change their lives and also help them, sort through the trauma of what they've done. And I think that's a good thing for her to do. I think it's the perfect place she should be in Gotham. So she's dealing with that. Meanwhile, she's sort of running from her own past at times. And she winds up encountering Hugo Strange, who has been abducting her friends, her Joker clients, I guess you could say. And that doesn't sit well with her. More importantly, I got to tell you, there is something particularly insulting that when Harley Quinn calls you a bad cosplayer, when she's probably the most cosplayed character in all of cosplay fandom, save for, I think, Deadpool. I think those two are neck and neck. That's really quite insulting, and that alone was kind of wild to see. The rest of the comic was great too. I had a really good time with it. I think you will too, but I don't think this is the issue you jump in on for Harley. I think you go back a couple issues and pick it up and read it. It's fun. You'll laugh a couple times every issue, and honestly, we're seeing her grow in weird ways, which is strange to see, but I'm having a good time with it. Yang, Rice, Miki, and Rich. We're talking about Batman, Superman. This is, if you can't tell from the cover, there's a certain demon on this cover that is one of my favorite characters. Gone, the form of man.
Here comes Etrigan.
No, here comes Rise the Demon Etrigan. Do we get to see Jason Blood? No, oddly enough, I didn't get to see Jason Blood, I don't think. This is the current Batman Superman run is sort of centering around a villain that does film magic. And the two worlds between Batman and Superman have united, and they're very old-timey in comic form, and I've loved it. It's been a really fun ride, and it's felt like an old Batman or Superman comic, and it just seems right. And this one's going to deal with one of my favorite rhyming demons, Etrigan. Had a good time with the story, had a good time with the art. But I will say, again, this is another issue that I'm not sure I would jump in on this issue. I'd probably go back a couple issues, like about 2, pick them up, and then go from there, because you might be a little confused. And granted, it's still a fun ride. There's plenty of action, but it's just not the issue to start with. This last book was very, very much the one book that almost edged out my pick of the week. Now, it's not technically a full-blown comic. You're really getting more of a novel when you buy these. It's John Ridley, Giuseppe Camoncola, Andrea Cucci, and Jose Villarrubia. And this is the other history of the DC Universe. Now, this one centers around Thunder, which is one of the daughters of Black Lightning, and more importantly, it's her growing up and finding her footing while also being in the shadow of her dad. And there's so much respect given to Black Lightning in this that I loved it. I sat down and tried to speed read it and just couldn't. Like, I found myself stopping and going it over stuff and actually reading the quotes out loud to like Yogi and Nate. It was just amazing, and John Ridley can certainly turn a phrase. And getting her whole history like this was just absurdly cool and fun, and I think you'll love it. It wasn't my pick of the week, but it was right about there, like neck and neck. And granted, I'm kind of a Lantern fanboy, so maybe that Infinite Frontier just hit me that much harder. Maybe this should have been my pick. I don't know. I'm still torn. I might need 2 DC picks of the week. This is so close, so do not skip it if you're a DC fan, by any means. We're going to go on to the Marvel and other indies. This is, it's Spurrier, Davila, Parsons, and Prianto, and this is Black Knight Curse of the Ebony Blade. Now, we know the Black Knight Curse. It centers around people having Arthurian blood, and this sword will only bring back people with Arthurian blood. And the last issue, we actually saw we actually saw the Black Knight get killed, or we think getting killed by the evil wizard. Meanwhile, the gal who was tagging along with them, it wasn't fully explained, but I think she got killed as well. And that's where this issue opens up. And yes, they're going to hit the end of the Black Knight run. They're going to explain everything that happened. They're going to wrap it all up in a nice bow, and it's fun and surprising. And as somebody who has had a legitimate bone to pick with Black Knight as a character, I loved everything about this. It made him. It made the Black Knight into a character that I'm invested in, and I want to know so much more. And I think it'll do that for you as well. So, is this the issue to pick up if you haven't been reading Black Knight? No, you don't pick up the last issue in an arc. I would say go and get the trade paperback. But is it great? Yeah, it was amazing. I am fully on board. This might be one of my favorite superheroes now, which is weird for me to say. So yeah, Spurrier, you did something monumental here and made a fanboy out of somebody who didn't like that character. That's brilliant, dude. So do not skip. If you haven't been reading those comics, go back, pick them up, and then come get the last one from us. It's outstanding, like really good. Next is Cantwell, Mashigo, Eaglesham, Bustos, Amiya. And this is, well, Cap has been chasing somebody trying to get his shield. We're all assuming it's U.S. Agent, yes? The man has shield envy. Let's just be honest. So while he was doing that last issue, he actually encountered somebody who had taken Cap's theming and had become his own version of Captain America. And he was supposed to defend, I guess, people who were hopping trains was what it was?
Yeah, it's kind of like the train hopping Cap, I think.
The train hopping Cap. This one's going to center around a gal who's sort of defending her neighborhood, and she's also an activist, so the activist Cap. And I honestly, I'm having a good time, even though I did not like the art of the first issue. Hated it, actually. Like this one a lot more, and I'm not sure what's different. It's it's the same artist. But for whatever reason, this issue resonated more with me than that last issue. I had a great time with it, and I think you will too. I liked the last issue. Don't get me wrong. I just was way more invested in this one. And, we kind of get to see... I don't want to spoil it. I'm not going to spoil it for you. It's a really good read. The art is great. The story is great. And if you were like me, you were kind of on the fence about the art the last issue. I don't know. They give them upper bodies that just looked very Liefeld Captain America in the first issue. It wasn't my jam. This one, however, was outstanding. And the art was, as an art snob, I loved it. This is going to be, I think, my indie pick of the week. Hold up. Let me thumb through some stuff. Oh, yeah, it's still my indie pick of the week. Yep. Okay, we're going to go with this one. This is my indie pick of the week. This is Bunn. Oh, Cullen Bunn.
The Bunn.
Bunn, Lies, Marquisio, and Campbell. And yes, this is Nightfall? The Nightfall imprint by Vault. Okay. The last book you'll ever read. And wow, is this a wild, grander statement on society? So this centers around an author who has written a book. She's written a book that is, I guess you could describe it as like Call of the Wild, but more towards mankind and civilization. It's basically talking about how society is that close to being like, so close to being uncivilized at times that we never sort of know how much of like just a hair fracture it is that'll divide it. She's written a book that's like that. It's like, I don't know how you describe it, like Call of the Wild, but way more violent, I guess you could say. And a lot of people who read this book suddenly find themselves committing to violent acts and sort of being a bit uncontrollable and seeing that society is really fragile. And it's just sort of a grander statement on us as a species, I guess, and civilization as a whole, and whether or not we are sort of the animal kingdom we come from. And I like it. There's a deeper philosophy at work here. It's dark, it's twisted, it's messed up, it's a bit gory, and not just horror fans can enjoy this. I think it's a bit psychological as well. But it's Cullen Bunn. Cullen Bunn is so deep and wild. And anyways, so you will have a good time with that book. Trust me, indie pick of the week for sure. The art is amazing. The story is great. Next is Jeremy Holt, George Stahl, and Adam Wallet. Oh my God, we can talk about the end of this. So with this, originally was like this character was a daughter for a family, and she actually was a robot, like an artificial intelligence that came from Korea. And She went to live with her American family, started going to school. Of course, she was a genius because she's artificial intelligence. So she wound up going to, I think, a college or a high school. Yeah. So she was basically fast-tracked, and she was doing all this stuff. And then the last issue ended with her in a shed with some classmates showing guns.
Yeah.
So it was going to be like a school massacre thing, and it went from being like, oh, this story's whimsical and fun, and I like the art. To, what is happening here? And I look, it's just as dark and twisted, and I'm not sure how this is going to turn out, but I'm on the edge of my seat, and for good reason. But I don't know if I like where this is going. Like, I really, really don't like where this is going, but I can't look away. Which I don't know if that's good or bad, or I don't know. I'm very much conflicted with this comic. Am I bored? No, totally not bored. It's definitely a thriller. You will like it too, maybe. There are some strong themes here. A person who's sensitive to that sort of thing, this ain't the book for you. But anyone else, I think you will probably have a good time. What is the barcode on the cover like translate to? Can we scan the barcode on the cover?
Oh, which one?
There's a barcode on each of these Made in Korea covers that I never noticed before. I want to know when you scan what comes up. No, I don't scan it with our system.
No. We need to scan it into the notepad.
Oh.
It'll tell me there.
Oh, that's weird. Okay.
Let's see.
Zdarsky, Hawthorne, D. Benedetto, and Minions, and we're talking about Daredevil.
No,
it's not working. Okay. Nuts. I was hoping I found an Easter egg. Well, what is happening here? When is New Comic Book Day? Free Comic Book Day, he meant. Free Comic Book Day is August 14th. Next is Zdarsky, Hawthorne, D. Benedetto, and Menyes. And we're talking about Lockdown Part 2, Daredevil. Now, Matt is still locked up in prison, and Elektra Daredevil, she's just Daredevil. We shouldn't call her Elektra Daredevil, but she's out on the streets, and everybody is kind of on lockdown in New York right now. Why? Because Bullseye is murdering tons of people. I mean, most of them are villains, but Bullseye is murdering them everywhere. And nobody can kind of figure out how he's gotten to all these locations as quick as he has. And that's going to be revealed in here. Is it messed up? Yeah, it's messed up. But you also get a really amazing fight in this with Elektra. Like, just an awesome fight. Had a great time with this. But this Daredevil run, it's finally going in different directions other than Matt Murdock has had enough of wearing the cowl. So Matt Murdock needs to take off the cowl. What will the city do? Like, I'm tired of that trope. It's finally going in different directions, but we are kind of still getting that trope in a different form, aren't we?
Oh, with Elektra?
Yeah, I mean, like, Matt's still, like, kind of doing time and not being full-blown Daredevil. I mean, it's whatever. Is it good? Yes, it's good. You'll love Daredevil. If you're reading it right now, you're probably having a great time like me. Next is Daniel Warren Johnson and Mike Spicer. This is Beta Ray Bill. Now, I have love everything about this Beta Ray Bill run. The art is amazing. The story is really fun. And I'm going to tell you, it's building towards a fight over a sword that can transform Bill back into his original form. And meanwhile, he's got to fight an old Thor foe in the form of Suitor, which is did I pronounce that right? Suitor? Surtur. Never pronounce those names right. Surtur. And so as much as I love this run, I was not in love with the ending. And I don't know why. I need more people to read it and discuss it with me, but it felt like there was too little character growth at the end. Now, is it a bad book? No. If you will have an absolute good time. I had a great time. There's plenty of good action. The story was fun. It just felt a little weird in the end, and I need to discuss that with somebody. So, yes, I had an amazing time. You will too. But we need to discuss. So I need more people to read Beta Ray Bill. We don't have a lot of copies on our shelves, but come get them. It's still a great book. I just need to discuss that ending. Next is Waltz, Maloney, Keene, Delgado. This is the TMNT annual. Now, I picked the variant cover by Eastman because this particular character, we haven't really seen a lot of him. And I think if you're not a huge TMNT fan, you probably don't know who the Rat King is. And his older iteration is kind of gone. He was not as wise as this before. This is a very wise and twisted version of Rat King, but it's also a calling back to the old TMNT original source comics, ones that got very surreal at times. So they're going to expand on Rat King's mythos and get quite surreal, and really the art does feel like that old style art. Now, we had some of those old issues like roll through, and one of them was the one that centered around them being in that high-speed freeway MC Escher realm. And I showed it to you and told you that I thought it was a dream for so many years. But
you found out it was real.
It was real. That's how the old TMNT original art used to be. Very weird and surreal at times. And this harkens back to it. It's good. It feels right. The writer and the artist both seem to know the source material well. And you will be having a great, great time with it. You remember the 2003 version of the writer? That's this version. I believe that's this version. It's a little bit more wiser of a character than the original one. But I like him, and I'm saying that as somebody who doesn't like rats at all. I think I have a rat phobia. But this TMNT run's been amazing, and the annual is no different. We only have a few copies. So unless you're sub to it, you have a very slim chance to pick them up off the shelves. You'll need to rush down here tomorrow to get some. But we will have that on our shelves. Look, I'm going to break a curse here in this store right now. David Land. Oh, Land did the cover. Oh, and that doesn't look like Land is up to his usual shenanigans.
Is that Greg Land or David?
Greg Land, for sure. It's a nice looking cover. Or maybe it's a different person on the cover, but Greg Land's the art inside of it. Look, I love the art. I did. Lyston D'Armata. This is Symbiote Spider-Man Crossroads. Now, look. I do not like the symbiote books generally. I think the last one I thought was okay, but usually it feels like they throw them into events. It's a reason to have Spider-Man in the black suit, the symbiote suit rather, and it always doesn't quite feel right. It feels like a shoot-in thing. This is standing alone, sort of. I mean, I think it might be tied into something currently going on, but look, the art was outstanding, actually, which is weird. But the art was really good. The story was really good. I had a great time. I laughed out loud a couple times. We get to see him team up with somebody who we always love to see him team up with, and I'm not going to spoil that. And it was surprisingly funny the way it played out. I read this, and I actually felt like this was better than the current amazing Spider-Man stuff on the shelf. Now, keep in mind, I'm pretty critical about that stuff too, but I had a ridiculously good time. And I honestly, if you've been waiting to jump in on these Symbiote Spider-Man books, this is the book to do it. It was outstanding. Weird for me to say, but I had a great time with it. And when I got to the end, I was like, oh, I'm hooked. I'm going to have to get that series. Next is Cullen Bunn, John Davis Hunt, Jordan Belair, Clayton Cowles. Shadow Man, issue number 4. Again, I'm going to sound like a broken record in saying this, but Shadow Man, I think, is my favorite of the Valiant heroes. Everything about his lore that I didn't know all that well, the Loa place, all the different sort of priests of these other gods and deities had centering around Loa and the Shadow Realm, I'm fully on board. And the way he sort of counters them and how he handles situations, and he tends to very much be a sort of cut first, ask questions later kind of guy, which I like. Shadow Man, the art is amazing, the story is great. It's Cullen Bunn though. Again, Cullen Bunn, him writing anything supernatural is always fun. This is my favorite of the Valiant characters. I'm just going to come out and say it right now. And maybe it's Cullen Bunn. Like, maybe that's why. But Shadow Man, trust me, if you're reading this, you ain't bored. And you are spending your money wisely. Because that story is absurdly cool. And the art's good, too. Do you like the 2003 version of Shred when he was... Nah, I mean, it was okay. I do like how they've grown him as a character. And how they've separated sort of the dragon curse from the actual character. I'm anxious to see how Saki sort of grows from there, Arakusaki. Yeah, Uncle Saki, Arakusaki, yeah. Next is Soleil, Rosanas, and Rosenberg. We're talking about War of the Bounty Hunters, Star Wars. it's weird that this came out this week, okay? Because, well, I'm going to say that the way this story ends, we do get to see some character growth in Luke Skywalker, which is weird. And we get to see something play out in a way that we haven't seen before. And you get to see Poe's other squad, the Starlight Squad, come into play, or his dad's squad, I guess, the Dameron Squad. So that's cool to see. But it's weird that this book came out this week, because what do we see in the other Star Wars bounty hunter books, right? Who's a certain villain that showed up in all of them?
Jabba.
No, beyond that.
Oh.
The OG, Darth Vader, showed up in all of them. And we know that Darth Vader wanted Han Solo. Like, we saw how that played out. And this actually, like, Luke gets clued into that sort of at one point. And it's like, well, we've seen sort of 4 books already. So why are you dropping this now? Like, that's sort of a late tie-in, I'd say. It's weird. The way these are playing out, like, it feels like they're out of order. Anyways, so will you have a good time with it? Yeah, if you're a Star Wars fan and you love the Rogue Squadron stuff, you will have a great time with this. There is even a trench run in this. So I had a good time with it. There's nothing, but it's just weird. Like, it's, for whatever reason, the reading order in the Star Wars Bounty Hunter War, the Bounty Hunters books, is odd right now. That's all I'm going to say on that. Next is a book that went from good to weird. Wagner, Hilliard, Stewart, and Dukeshire. This is Vinyl. Now, Vinyl has really amazing art, and that's probably underselling it. Like, the art is fun, it's wild, it's grotesque at times. I mean, it's a horror comic. We saw the last issue. We thought that the main character was the serial killer, and that was the twist. Well, we're going to find out there's so much more to it. Come on, you see creepy twins on the cover. You got to know there's more than one serial killer at play in this. But they're referencing horror tropes, and we can kind of see what trope they're referencing in that. But it's weird. It's just weird how it plays out. It's twisted. It's weird. I thought the last issue was a bit genius and wild, and as a horror fan, I was like, yeah, I'm fully on board with this. But this issue sort of, there's so many moving parts. I need somebody else to read it and come to, like, tell me what they think about it. It's just strange in how it played out. Now, was it fun? Yeah, it was fun. And as a horror fan, I had a good time with it. And I think anyone else who's a horror fan will love this. If you're not into horror, though, this is not your book. That's all I'm going to say on that. I need to discuss it, though. It's just, it felt like it went from being like a wild story where there was a lot of moving parts, and I was like, oh, but I'm okay with it. It's fun. To a wilder story where there's so many moving parts where I'm like, okay, this is bordering on quantum physics. There's a lot of weirdness going on here. Next is Greg Pak. Oh, did I know it was Pak? Greg Pak, Jordi Perez, and Francesco Segala. And this is Firefly, issue number 31. Now, we were paying close attention to the Firefly, the new crew, and this is definitely tied into that. But this is the mainline Firefly, which I honestly thought had ended a while back, right? Yeah. It's still running. It's tied to the new crew, which all of the characters have aged quite a bit. Robot Wash is growing as a character. And I love it. The art is amazing. The story is really, really fun. It's very Firefly-esque. The ending is, wow, a bit twisted. We're going to see a certain, I believe they call them Ravengers.
Oh, God. They're back?
Sort of. I think. Reavers. Reavers. Not Ravengers. I've got my comic characters confused. Reavers. I think we see them in this issue. It's pretty weird and creepy, but I could be mistaken. But there's a lot of character growth and a really, really fun story. Now, I don't know. Firefly for me is usually, well, I wait for Mal to get the upper hand and do it in a really dark and almost sadistic way because Mal's a bit cutthroat. And I'm not getting that from this yet because Zoe, she is cutthroat, but she's got a bit more of a conscience than Mal at times. It's not to say I'm not having a good time. I'm having a great time with Firefly. I'm just waiting for that sort of flavor to cross my path. It's going to happen, I'm sure. They're building to it. Pak's a great writer. We can give him another issue or two. Next is, I really love this variant cover, so I picked this for Fantastic Four. Now, I got to tell you, so the last couple issues, Johnny Storm had a falling out with his gal and then wound up sleeping with, well, Dr. Doom's main squeeze. Yeah, who was going to marry Doom?
Oh, come on.
That's not going to work out well for the first family. But what does work out well is you get a ton of action, a very Fantastic Four-esque issue. Oh my God, is it great. And also, I don't know, man, like I'm starting to side with Doom. Like I can almost see why he's that angry at them all the time. Like that. Anyways, I had a great time with it. I loved everything about it. The way it wraps up is so Fantastic Four. Honestly, look, Slott has been doing some wild stuff lately, and his run went from really, really good to a bit of a lull, and then back to really, really good, and it hasn't stopped since it's hit that last iteration, which it's been like, I don't know, like 12 issues that it's been awesome. Having an amazing time, Dan Slott. Keep writing this for us. But that's going to sort of wrap that up and sort of grow a character into a new character, which is ridiculously cool. You'll see. We've been whispering about her for a minute, so we all kind of knew it was coming. Peter Calloway, George is Genty, and this is Shadow Doctor. Now, this is how an African-American man who had a degree in medicine couldn't get a job, couldn't get his community to accept him, and went to work for the mob. And he was an exceptional surgeon and good at saving lives. And this is how he did it, why he did it, what happened to him as a character because of it. And it was, not as a character. I shouldn't say as a character. This is a true story, actually. But what happened to him and his family because of it, sort of the twists and turns and what that lifestyle, meant, how characters grew. It's just wild to see, and it's a true story that I don't think a lot of people know. I read this to the end, and I will tell you that the end is very, very sudden. It hits a point where I'm like, oh, that's how it ended. And it felt a bit rushed. Like I wanted another issue to build towards the ending. But I get where we're going to, and I understand what happened there. I just wanted one more issue for that ending. I don't know why we didn't get the 6th issue. That's all I'm going to say. Is it good? Yeah, it was amazing. I had a great time with this. We've got back issues. If you want some back issues, come get them. It's really cool to see, but I don't know. I like stories about that time in American history. That Chicago mob was so twisted and wild and crazy. And it was just the Wild West happening in the Midwest. Next is Keanu Reeves, Matt Kint, Ron Garney, and Bill Crabtree, and we're talking about Berserker number 4. Now, is Berserker great? Yes, it's Keanu's. Honestly, it's a masterpiece. But what we've seen for the last 3 issues has been well, Keanu was a caveman essentially, and he couldn't get killed, and his father sort of exploited him, and what happened because of that. And that's all we've seen, mostly all we've seen. We've still had the mystery of why and how he came to be working for this government organization. That's not quite yet explained. But honestly, there's plenty of action and not enough character growth in the last few issues. We're going to start to see some of that in this issue, and it's good. But, if you're a Berserker fan or a Keanu fan, you're probably having an amazing time with this. And I can't wait to see the live action of this. It's going to be good. It's just... there's so much. It's weird to say because we all know Keanu is good at action, but there's almost too much action in this book, and that's something you won't find me say too often. It's bloody, it's wild, it's fun. I'm having a great time with that one too. Next is Morrissey, Gooden, Duke, and Campbell, and we're talking about Volts Barbaric number 2. I love the first one. It's essentially Conan if Conan had a talking axe and then hangs out with a necromancer. I don't know why, but that sounds like an amazing thing. And I'm sure that's exactly how that was pitched in an office room. And whatever executive was pitched that idea was like, yes, I want to print that book. And frankly, good on him, because that's the book I want to read, and it's outstanding. This one, it's going to get to the bottom of what's going on with the necromancer, and she's got to sort of deal with some demons in her past, and that's awesome to see. But we're going to put the barbarian in a tight spot and see how he gets out of it. It's probably with his magic axe. I'm just going to assume that's how it is. Is it fun? Yes, it's amazing. The art is absurdly cool, ridiculously good. This was almost my indie pick of the week, like right there. I had a great time with it. It was fun. You will like it too. I already picked my indie pick of the week, didn't I? I did. Next is Von Kuman and Von Eckertsberg. This is Gung Ho Anger. Look, this is a coming-of-age story in an apocalypse when, there's like tribes of people divided up and a couple betrayals and this and that. It goes back and forth. The art is really cool. The story is kind of not my favorite. I don't know. I'm not hooked on these characters. Nothing has sold me on these characters. It just feels like a run-of-the-mill apocalypse story. I don't know. Gung Ho has had a different run before, and people have loved it. So I think it has. I believe it has. I don't know. I'm not super invested in these characters is all I'm going to say. The art's really good, though. If you're an art snob, you'll probably love it. Next is Remender, Wayshak, and Denisio, and this is Scumbag. The fate of the world rests on the worst person. So the last issue, it was centering around, moon hippies that were going to shoot a bullet. No, not shoot a bullet. Moon hippies that were going to shoot a laser with a bullet of a moon hippie inside of it, and it was going to change the world into their image. People were going to be all about peace and love. And unfortunately, in the last issue, Scumbag crawled into that. So guess what, people? The 70s are back. And yeah, it's grotesque. The world has been transformed in Scumbag's image, and he sees it as paradise, and the rest of us see it as hepatitis C. It is a foul, foul world, and that's all I'm going to say. But the way this ends was wild and weird and very Marvel-esque. That's all I'm going to say. It's weird. It felt very multiversal. This Scumbag run is outstanding, but again, this is an edgy edgelord book. This is it's not a Garth Ennis book. God, that went down the wrong pipe. It's not a Garth Ennis book, but it feels like it's a Garth Ennis book. Like when you wonder if they're going to go there in Scumbag, no, they're going there, and it's going to be something that you can't unsee. So I'm having the best time with it, but I was in the military, and the Army has messed me up. So take that with a grain of salt. Next is Mirka Andolfo's Sweet Paprika, and this is issue number 1. Now, I should have known. I really like that art germ cover. And this book seems to be flying off our shelves. Now, this one, if you don't know these characters, there has been, I think the last run was like an angel and a demon that fell in love and had a lot of gratuitous sex and then had a child and sort of built a family from there. This centers around a demon that is struggling with sexual repression. I don't think that's something that a demon should struggle with, especially not in anything tied to the Mirka Andolfo universe stuff. But it's weird, wild, and a bit perverse. Now, I'm not going to lie, it made me blush a couple times. I don't normally read comics like this. It's very adult. So if you are an adult and that's your jam, trust me, you will have a good time with it. Plus these covers, look at that cover. That is absurdly cool. All those variant covers are just outstanding. The art is amazing, like ridiculously cool art. It just makes me blush at times. Next is, it's weird to say this name after so long. Argon's, Evanier, and Yeats, and we're talking about Sergio Argon's Gru meets Tarzan. Edgar Rice Burroughs Tarzan. That's wild. So it's classic Tarzan meets classic Gru, but it also is Sergio Argon's talking about going to Comic-Cons and speaking in public, and people at times bugging him about wanting him to draw his spy versus spy characters. He doesn't draw those characters. That's not his creation.
Yeah.
So it's pretty wild, and a lot of Mad Magazine references, and we do get to see Gru and Tarzan run around in their respective universes. Had a good time with it, but I read a lot of Gru as a kid. Like that was like my junior high school jam. So I understand that this might not have the same pull for people these days, but for as a nostalgia factor, I had a pretty good time with it. And the art is, well, it's Gru and Tarzan. I mean, they both kind of respect the art pretty well. Next is Scott, Ginty, Story, and Leone, and this is Star Wars High Republic. Look at that cover. My God, what a gorgeous cover. And, you know, I've double-checked, and that the main character does have a double lightsaber, but I just never noticed it before until, like, this issue or a variant of this issue. So she does have a double lightsaber, but I haven't noticed it before. And sadly, we're still dealing with the plant hive mind space zombie Audrey from Little Shop of Horrors character that we've been dealing with for 7 issues. That's still a problem. But we also get a back and forth between the Jedis and the Jedi and politics, and we do get a new character being introduced. I want him to wrap up that arc because I'm over that villain. Like, let's move on to other stuff. Is it fun? Yeah, it's fun, and it's still the best stuff coming out of Star Wars right now. It's just that story arc is kind of lagged a little bit. That's on our shelf. Next is a book I had a really good time with and probably shouldn't. And I don't know why. This is Radionov, Goldberg, Garcia, Brevard, and Mengual. And this is Possessive. Now, this centers around, well, kind of a horror trope. We've sort of seen it before. Guy buys a house on the cheap. Why did he buy it on the cheap?
Because it's cheap.
Well, and?
It's haunted.
It's haunted, and this ghost is very murderous, but the way it plays out is a bit different. I didn't expect this kind of ending. It's sort of a divorced guy that bought a house and he was going to fix it up and it was kind of at his wit's end at the end of it. And this is one of 3 issues. It's not going to wrap it up in 1 issue, but the way it played out was way different. And I think if you're a horror fan or you're somebody who does like horror tropes like I do, you will have a great time with this book. Now, the art is actually outstanding. I went into this figuring the art was going to be generic, and by the end of it was like, oh, no, this feels like, what's that rock band art? That rock band book. The covers are all pink. It's like Rock Band in a haunted house. Home Sweet Heroes or something. Homesick Pilots. The art felt like Homesick Pilots at times, where I was like, oh, I really dig this art. I'm having a good time with it. You honestly will too. The first time I looked at it, I was like, oh, this looks like sort of the Zenoscope, like regular stuff. And it is a Zenoscope book, but no, it divided from that. It stood alone. The art was great. The story was really fun. Had a good time with it. Next is Matthew Ehrman and Stefano Simone, and this is Good Luck. Now, we saw in the last issue, this was kind of a strange book. It centers around people that sort of, they breathe in luck, and it allows them to go into certain situations where people are sort of dying of bad luck and change situations. And luck is a very tangible thing in this universe. And they're dealing with gods of both good luck and bad luck and how they affect society and sometimes cause disasters and stuff like that. And they've got to counter them. And we had trainees that walked into situations that were not meant for trainees. And that was the first issue. And this one, the way it played out was I got about 3/4 through with it, and I was like, this is okay. And then the end scene happened. I was like, that was kind of cool, like awesome in how it ended. And yeah, it was just a really good ending. So I get what they're trying to do. The art is great. The story is actually pretty fun. And it's gone in a direction I don't think I know. And I can't quantify like where their source material would be for this. I'm not entirely sure where they got this idea, but I'm interested. I'm intrigued. It's fun. It'll be on our shelf. Next is Amazing Fantasy. Now, this is Kara Kyle Andrews science fiction. This is weird. They came to a world with no heroes and no escape. Now, it's sort of harkening back to the comic book, sort of, not even comic book. It's harkening back to a sci-fi route with a lot of like early sci-fi fantasy, but they're throwing comic book characters into it. And I wasn't sure how I'd feel about it, but then I got to the end and I was like, whoa, This is amazingly fun, and the art is ridiculously cool. It's got a little bit of an old-timey feel, but just modern enough that everyone can appreciate it. The story was fun. It went in a direction I didn't quite expect and was a bit shocked at the end, but was also kind of a tearjerker. So Marvel Comics Amazing Fantasy, I'm fully on board with this, and I would say that this is one of the best books on the shelf this week. One of the best. Is it my pick of the week for Marvel? Oh, I should have picked that. Let me think. Is it my pick of the week for Marvel? Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second to sort through this. No. There is something else that is going to be my pick of the week for Marvel. But it's pretty good. Next is James Tinian IV, Werther Delendra, and Miguel Muerto, and we're talking about Something is Killing the Children, issue number 18. I have loved everything about this. They're fleshing out the secret society. The House of Slaughter is finally sort of getting explained. And the main character for the first, 16, 15 issues is finally getting her origin story. And they're telling it right. Tinian IV is drawing it out. He's not just throwing it in our face with 1 or 2 issues. He's building this mythos in a weird way, and it's a very sort of Buffy-esque way. And it makes sense because you can kind of tell that he's gotten a bit of influence from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It feels right, and I'm having a good time with it, and you will too. And we need this to be a TV show or a movie, just flat out. We need this. This needs to get optioned for a TV show or a movie, preferably a TV show, because there is a lot of material here, and I think everyone will love it. But it'll be on our shelf. Come get it. The art is great. It's just gorgeous. Next is Brian Herbert, Kevin J. Anderson, Adam Gorham, and Patricio Del Peche. And this is Dune, the Blood of the Sardaukar. Now, who is the Sardaukar in the Doom universe? They're actually the Emperor's Guard. And you don't want to encounter these people unless you are a Fremen, which is a total badass. But usually if the Sardaukar is summoned, there is a lot of problems, and they're going to cut through who they need to sort of enact whatever the Emperor's duty is. And that's what we're going to see. We're going to see some of them undercover doing some cutthroat stuff. It's gory, it's bloody, it's very ruthless at times, but it's exactly what I'd expect from these characters in the Dune universe. And it's cool. It's cool. I mean, I was reading it and I was kind of shouting out Dune lines while I was reading it, and that's usually a sign of a good book. The art is great, but it looks just like that other Dune stuff that's on our shelf right now. Next is Mallory Reeves and Gabriella Cianello, and this is Mirror Moon, but the Nightmare Before Christmas series. So we are finally getting more of this Disney manga stuff is what it feels like, and it's Nightmare Before Christmas. The art is ridiculously cool. This one's going to center around what if all the holiday doors opened at once.
Oh, wow.
That's wicked. I kind of want to see this in movie form, but so far, so good. It does play out like the beginning of Nightmare Before Christmas, which is sort of what I oddly enough wanted. The Zero stuff doesn't play out quite like that. So this is kind of, it feels right, and I want to know where it's going. And I think if you're a Disney fan, you will honestly love this. I did, or a Tim Burton fan, either one. Next is Runes, Son of the Black Wolves, issue number 1. This is Source Point Press. This is a strange book. What this is, well, it felt to me like I was reading an episode of Vikings. It had just, it's Norse mythos centering around a couple of Vikings that, have their gods and their sort of culture. And then there's a bit of mysticism tied to it. And that's what you get here in Runes. And I was intrigued. I want to know where it's going, and I want to know more. The art was, I was a little on the fence about the art at times. It's almost too gritty at times, but then you'll kind of turn the page, and it just fits for the scene perfectly. It's kind of wild. So I don't know. By the end of the issue, I was fully on board with the art. The storyline was, it's very, again, Viking. It's very Viking. So if you don't like the Norse stuff, the Norse mythos, or you're not a Thor fan, I guess you could say, you probably wouldn't like this. But I had a pretty good time with it. Next is Percy, Kubert, and Martin, and we're talking about Wolverine. Now, oh man, this issue in particular. Wolverine is in Madripoor and is trying to figure out who murdered the Marauder boat. Yeah. But I don't think they killed all the mutants, as far as I can tell. It seems like they just killed humans, but the boat was parked in Madripoor and sort of got raided, and he's got to get to the bottom of it, and it might be a certain group of warlike mutants, some of them that didn't quite go off to where we thought they went off. And the way it plays out is very fun. Like Wolverine bonding with a mutant that's only known war totally makes sense, if I'm honest. It really, really does. So the way that this was written was outstanding. The storyline was fun. I laughed multiple times. I had a good time with it. Is it my Marvel pick of the week? No, it's not my Marvel pick of the week. Close, very close, but it was so good. And the art's great. Next is a book. This is so weird for me to say. This is Gunn, Wallace, and Lentz, and it centers around a group of unicorns that are fighting clones, like creatures that can clone themselves and out of other creatures. It's called Warcorns, but look, I'm going to tell you, unicorns fighting cutesy clone creatures, it sounds weird, right? But the next words that come out of my mouth is going to shock everyone. This is the best war comic I've read in a long time. And the reason being is because they get the war effort right. Like the unicorns are the soldiers, but they even say Sarn. Like in the army, we don't say sergeant, we say Sarn. There's no G in that word that gets said ever. The G is silent. So they nail that. They nail the relationship between brothers. They nail the things they say, the way they handle situations, the times that they pull back and the times that they shoot. It's strange, but a comic book about unicorns is the best representation of the army on our shelf right now. What is going on? Had a great time. Had a great time with it. Loved it. The art was amazing. I loved everything about it. It feels like it's growing into something wider and weirder. And I don't know. I think everybody needs to stop and take a look at this. Is it my indie pick of the week? No, it was just under it, but real close. The writer blew me away. He's got to be a vet. That's all I'm going to say. Next is V. Schwab, Endon Belem, Jordi Elshwin LaRoche, and this is extraordinary. Now this, I don't know. I tried to get into this book. There's not enough action for one thing. For two, the art at times, I wasn't super into the art. The art felt a bit generic at times. And the story is, well, this gal keeps having dreams about this particular person, and then we're going to throw in superpowers on top of that. And it was okay. Superpowers, secret organization. We've kind of seen these tropes before. So I don't know. Not the best book, not the best opener. Nothing hooked me is all I'm going to say. Your mileage may vary. We'll have it on our shelves. Come pick it up and come through it. Next is Evan Doherty and Ricardo Latina. And this is a weird book too. The art, I will tell you, the art did not feel generic. I actually really like the art. This is an Aftershock book called Seven Swords. And so the art was cool. The storyline was weird. It was Three Musketeers crossed with Cyrano de Bergerac. Now, if you don't know Cyrano de Bergerac, he's a guy who had many talents and was quick-witted and seemed to be able to charm the ladies, but he had this gigantic nose. Or he wasn't able to charm the ladies. He actually spoke to a buddy, and his words charmed the woman that he actually wanted. That's the story of Cyrano de Bergerac. He had a giant nose. So they drew this character, and immediately I knew who it was, but I was like, they're also saying D'Artagnan. So this is Three Musketeers crossed with Cyrano. It's weird. But as somebody who doesn't tend to like that sort of old-timey swashbuckly feel, I had a ridiculously good time with this storyline. It was wild and weird and fun, and it hooked me. So, okay, Seven Swords. It's not an issue number 1. I didn't read issue number 1, but issue number 2 got me hooked, and I'm fully on board. So, yeah, that'll be on our shelves. Next is McKay, Magno, and Guru Effects, and this is Avengers Mech Strike. Now, we saw Black Panther actually die in the first issue, and then we get to the end of the last issue, and no, he's got the power cosmic, and he ain't dead yet.
He's got the touch.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! I just realized, Thor-Mech has Optimus Prime face.
Thor-Mech does have Optimus Prime
That's
face.
awesome.
Was that
I
Mr.
didn't
Robo?
notice
Was it from
that.
the
Thor-Mech
original?
has Optimus Prime face. So that's cool. But also we finally got the villain, and the villain's Kang. I don't know. I mean, they were dealing with time. We kind of sort of knew that was the thing. The Mech Stripe books are just an excuse to get the Avengers in mechs. That's all they are. And I've had a good time with it. But look, let's be honest. It's kind of a gimmick, and yet the writing has been really fun. The dialogue's been fun, and I didn't expect that much depth from it. If you're on board with this, honestly, don't start with this book. Go back a few issues. But if you're on board with this, you're probably having a great time. And I'm happy to say that the ending does tie it up nicely in a bow. It was pretty good. Next is Jean, Luan Yang, and DK Ruan and Triana Farrell. And we're talking about Shang-Chi. And you can tell from the cover he's going to sort of cross blades with Wolverine. And the way it plays out is kind of awesome and does tie into Shang-Chi's other family members. And more importantly, he's kind of helping his dad, which doesn't quite sit well with the rest of the Marvel universe for good reason. His dad is a villain, but his dad is not the same villain for the Shang-Chi movie. We all know that that's not technically his dad. So anyways, I'm having a good time with the Shang-Chi run, but I've had a great time with all of them. Can you think of a Shang-Chi book that came out last year that was bad?
Oh, wow. Out of all 20 of them?
Yeah,
No.
there was like 3 or 4 different runs of Shang-Chi all at the same time, and all of them are great. This one's great too. The art is really, really good. The storyline's fun, and I think if you're a Shang-Chi fan, you're definitely not bored with any of this. Next is going to be my pick of the week for no, it's not. Ooh, that was close. Almost my pick of the week for Marvel. Ewing, Caselli, and Proto Bunker. This is the Last Annihilation Sword. But really, I mean, we know they're dealing with the Last Annihilation that's coming in the form of Dormammu as the planet Ego, which is a very weird villain, but does work, and is ridiculously frightening. But on top of that, we are also dealing with, well, Storm is now the head of Sword, and she's the head of Mars, which they're considering to be the head of Sol. So our solar system is technically represented by the mutant planet of Mars. Araco, actually, is what it's called. And so she's got to sort of build diplomacy with certain people. And one of them is Victor Von Doom. She's having dinner with Victor Von Doom.
That makes sense.
It's such a brilliant scene and is written so well. And the dialogue is fun. And the way it plays out was, it's not a huge amount of action, but that alone was super intriguing. And I loved how it ended. Al Ewing, you are just a master at your job. Like, oh God, that was so cool to see.
Maybe Johnny thought he could get away with it because Doom's on Mars at the moment.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, but oh man, I had a great time. Sword, honestly, it's a must buy. It's not my pick of the week. Was almost there, but really, you put Sword in. I mean, not put Sword. You put Storm in this kind of situation where she's so good at like handling relationships with people, and if she falters, well, she's got the power of an Omega level mutant behind her as well. Next is a book that again was almost my pick of the week. Was right there. God,
You right, man?
mm-mm. My throat is going. Like I can feel my throat. Talking so much is really hard every week. It takes it out of me. But I do it because I got to get all the books read. And this week was like a novel. This is Dugan and Noto, and this is Cable. Look, okay, this is amazing. It's Cable basically got the original X-Force team back together mostly. And that included Deadpool, and they got to go handle Strife. And the way this wrapped up was awesome. And we all kind of knew that Cable eventually needs to leave the nest and go traveling through time because that's what he always does. So the way it ends, yeah, okay, it's a little bit telegraphed. We've seen it before. But the build-up to it was fun. You get Deadpool in all his glory in this, and it was outstanding. And it was nice to see the OG X-Force team put back together. I had a great time with it. You will too. 100% across the board, fully on board. And yeah, it's issue 12, and I think it's the end. Is it the end? Yes, it's the end of the cable run, and I'm sad to see it go, but I had an amazing time with it. Are they like breaking the candy machines out there? Like, what is going on? Next is McKay, Via, and Reber, and we're going to do this as my pick of the week, Black Cat. But look, okay, I'm going to spoil a little bit of this book and tell you why this is my pick of the week. Black Cat is a character that she's very cutthroat in how she handles things. And while she's sort of been a bit of a hero lately, she has no problems with being the villain at any given time. She's very gray area as a person. But she's going to cross swords with another person who is very, very cutthroat in the form of Nicholas Fury. Yeah, so we get to see a Nick Fury versus Black Cat. And the ending, I mean, you see her with an Infinity Gauntlet, or the Infinity Gauntlet on her hand. You're going to assume that she's after an Infinity Stone, but the way it's going to play out is going to be really, really, really unexpected. And more importantly, you get a monologue from Nick Fury that, in my opinion, could go down as one of the best monologues in comic history. It's really dope. And it centers around, like, how do we tell future generations and warn them not to mess with nuclear sites? Because eventually that will be a problem and mankind needs to handle it. And what do we do when we're gone completely? How do we convey that? And apparently there's a way to convey it. It's explained in this. The way they convey it is they say there is no honor here. Because if everything dies in that area and it's dangerous, people will see it and they will be like, well, I'm going to go find out what this danger is all about. And if they say there's no honor here, you just die. And that makes sense, right? And I fully believe that that's some government plan that he's describing in here. And if not, McKay, you're just a hell of a storyteller. But trust me, the way Black Cat and Nick Fury go at it is totally worth the price of admission. Absolutely, without a doubt, my pick of the week. That fight was stellar. It was ridiculously cool. You're gonna want to see it. The dialogue is amazing. The way it played out, it surprised me in the end. It'll surprise you in the end too. You will have a great time. Black Cat, issue 8, pick of the week. Next is a book that was almost my pick of the week too for indies. Tinian the Fourth, Simmons, and Bidikar. And we can finally talk about Department of Truth. Now, Department of Truth, last issue, we found out that the most dangerous conspiracies are the ones that we in this world don't think are very dangerous. And that centers around cryptozoology, so like Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, and everything else. It was explained in the last issue that when these things get power, people that are near them wind up getting like nosebleeds, not feeling healthy, because it's essentially a creature that shouldn't exist in our universe, that's been brought into existence. People have willed it into existence. So that was cool to see, and very, very X-Files. And granted, I think that those are the tame conspiracies in this day and age. But they're going to wrap up how that plays out. And more importantly, they're going to tangle with a person who has dedicated his whole life to hunting Bigfoot. And how is that going to play out? And with the Department of Truth, they tend to just murder anyone who is propagating those lies. So I don't know how it's going to play out. But yeah, we're going to have to wait and see. I love this. But we asked a question on Tinian the Fourth on Twitter the other day, and we said, if there's a Department of Truth, is there an administration of lies? Like, is there a counterbalance? I want that story too. But anyways, having a great time. You will too. 3 more books my throat is going to give. I'm doing my best, guys. Next is Thompson, Casagrande, De La Torre, and Belair, and this is Black Widow, issue number 9. My God, the art for Black Widow is so good, and this issue is no different. The art is amazing. The way this artist draws action is outstanding. She does have a new suit, and that new suit has new powers, and we're going to sort of see how they play out, sort of. New tech in it, and we're going to see how some of that plays out in this issue, but we're also going to get a lot of action, Believe me, if you're a Black Widow fan, you are having the best time with this run, but this issue in particular, the way it plays out is great. And there is that obligatory scene where she jumps off a building, and somebody's like, how is she doing that? She doesn't have a parachute. It's like, come on. She's been jumping off buildings for a long time. Come on. She can literally say I'm Black Widow, whereas Batman can say I'm Batman, and everyone's just going to accept it. It's not as intense as Batman's, but it's getting there.
Yeah, well, I mean, Batman's down the block now.
Yeah, that's true. Anyways, so is it awesome? Yes. Thompson's weaving such a fun tale. The art is outstanding. And if you're a Black Widow fan and the other runs have not sat well with you, like this has been your run, and you know it has, because there's so much fun in this run. Next is, look, I think I like this better than the current mainline. And this is Stan Sakai, Usagi Yojimbo, the Dragon Bellow Conspiracy. This has literally all of my favorite Usagi characters sort of coming together for a really twisted plot. And I know that Stan Sakai is weaving something Shakespearean here. So, again, the art is typical Usagi. It's Stan Sakai doing what Stan Sakai does. But the story, again, is Stan Sakai doing what Stan Sakai does. It's building towards an epic thing that feels like it might rival Grasscutter, which was my favorite of the Usagi stories. This is absurdly cool. And if you've been a Usagi fan and the stuff on the shelf, you're like, yeah, it's pretty good. This is great, ridiculously cool, and feels like old school Usagi in a nutshell. Next is Aaron, Gronbeck, DeLuise, and DeRusso and Menyes. And if I sound like a broken record, it's because a lot of good stuff came out this week. And again, this was almost my pick of the week. The Mighty Valkyries. Look, okay, we got to talk about this cover, okay? The cover says Thor is the rightful owner of this axe. And this says, is he though? And she's doing a face. The reason she's doing that face is because there's a Thor meme that says, isn't though?
Oh, yeah.
And then there's a Mother of Dragons theme. And it's like, is it though? And they make the same face. She's doing that exact face. And it's fun. I like when cover artists do that sort of thing. So we're referencing a meme on the cover. But we've got the birth of gods in this issue of Valkyrie. They're hanging out in hell. We've got, on top of that, a wolf god that is being hunted by Kraven the Hunter. We've got Valkyrie sort of at odds with both herself and other people's selves as well. And then we've got the other Valkyrie, apparently the OG of OGs, who's finally got a name. Her name is Runa. And apparently she's had Yarnborn, Thor's axe, before he was a thing. They've never done that before, and that's cool to see. I'm having the best time. Look, this Valkyrie's run, Jason Aaron is doing what Jason Aaron does with the Thor missiles, and he's building something ridiculously cool, and he's just sort of bringing all this chaos together, and he's going to just unfold something explosive. And it's fun. It's fun. And honestly, it's so good. I almost feel like if you're reading the Thor comics on the shelf and you're having a great time with it, and granted, it's a different writer, like this stuff that Aaron is writing goes hand in hand with it. Like you really need to be reading both books. They even though they're not tying together in the sense that they're similar characters, their storylines aren't weaving together. Like they just feel right. Like they go together. So if you're having fun with Thor, definitely be picking up Valkyries. Plus the art is, oh my God, it's to die for. I mean, and that's just underselling it. The way they draw Hela is wow, wicked. It's the best time. This issue in particular, outstanding. I had the best time with it. Do not skip it. We only have a limited amount of copies. They will be on our shelves. And that's our show for this week. I'm going to go ice up my throat because, my God, I've talked so much. But hopefully, look at this. This is what I have to review some weeks. Like, it comes down to stuff like this. This is how many comics I went through for you guys. And I do this every week, but my God, I'm becoming a walking encyclopedia of comic knowledge. But, I mean, there are worse problems in this world than having to read a bunch of comics every week. But believe me, when I tell you I speed read a novel every week and then, like, try to put it in form so that it appeals to you guys. And I hope I'm doing a good job. I love you guys. We'll see you next week. Bye, Green Machine friends and fans of fun. I'm going to tap close on everything. Bye, YouTube, and then bye, Instagram. Bye, Instagram. We'll see you guys next